So, welcome to the Spiritual Hour. I'm Global Psychic Medium, and today we're talking about spirituality, mental health, and how they link. So, for myself, as a psychic medium, the whole time I've been on this spiritual journey, I've always said the two link together in so many ways. How do they link? Let me explain. So, for a lot of you people out there that might be very, very sensitive to people, to energies, what you're focusing on, how it affects you, etc., you have to understand that the feelings that you're feeling may not always be your own. Sometimes those feelings that you're feeling, they could be somebody else's. You could be picking up on their energies. You could be feeling their anxiety, feeling their worry, feeling their uncertainty. The other question that you've got to ask is, if you're not feeling someone's living person's energy, are you feeling somebody's energy on the other side? For myself, on my spiritual journey, I felt this so many times, and it was hard to distinguish what was mine and what was somebody else's. So I tell so many people that do my mediumship and my psychic development courses, doing this course won't just make you a better psychic and medium, it will also give you awareness. It will also help your mental health. Awareness helps us to understand what the energy is, what it is that we're feeling, why we're feeling that. And then when we understand this awareness, understand this energy, we know where to place it and to shelf that energy. That's not mine, that's not mine, and that's not mine. Of course, if it is your own energy, then you've got to ask yourself, why are you feeling that way? Which again becomes back to your awareness. Why am I feeling this way? Is it because something I'm focusing on? Is it because of something I'm worried about? That is what you've got to ask yourself. Or even, is it somebody that you're focusing on? Now, what you have to understand as a psychic and medium, and you'll hear it over and over again, what you focus on is exactly what you're going to feel. So in today's episode, I'm going to try and help you to understand not only what you're feeling, but also to change how you're feeling, to help you improve your mental health. Through my journey, it was Spirit that helped to guide me through my journey and help me to give me a toolbox and understand that each part of my toolbox can help me with different aspects of my life, including my mental health. The only problem is that a lot of us have these tools, but we forget or don't use them. And we've all got it within our armourer. And so it's important to understand that if you acquire this knowledge, this toolbox that you're given on your spiritual journey, it's so important that you remember to use it and how to use it, most importantly. Now, for myself, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, I remember there was a couple of instances that really stood out for me. I remember getting chest pains, palpitation, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I even remember my partner having to call the ambulance out at the time. The ambulance came, and when they examined me, they said, look, everything seems to be okay. Again, it happened again, and it happened again. Then when I started to understand the way that the spirit world worked, it helped me to also understand what was happening to me. Now, it might not be the same for you, so just bear that in mind. But what was happening to me was I was having these spirits coming through. And because I was clairsentient as well, so to feel, I was feeling what they was trying to tell me. However, I just didn't know what they was trying to tell me. So I was getting these issues around the chest, which is Spirit's way of saying to me, I'd passed with chest issues. But I didn't put the two and two together because at that particular point, I was at the very beginning of my spiritual journey. And so now I start to have this awareness that sometimes I will see it, sometimes I'll hear it, and sometimes I'll feel it when I'm working with spirit. This helps me to understand how they're communicating with me, but what they're trying to communicate with me. So going through this part of my journey, I started to understand that not everything I was feeling was my own. This was Spirit's way of saying to me, Carl, I passed with heart conditions. Okay, great. So I started to have this awareness then of sometimes the things that I was feeling wasn't always my own. I'm not saying it's the case for everyone, but for me, that was the case in these instances. Now, there was other times as well when I was a lot younger, and I remember going to work, particularly when it was like a first day, first week, job interview, things like that. I remember feeling ill and ringing into the job and saying, I don't feel very well today. I can't come in today. My signs and symptoms at the time was sickness or feeling sick and an upset stomach. So I remember calling in saying that I wasn't able to make it. But at that particular time, I didn't know there was a word for it, which was called anxiety. I just knew that I felt queasy, I felt sick, I had an upset stomach, it didn't feel right. And then a couple of hours after ringing in to work, all of a sudden, because I'd been off work for so long, all this energy had settled within inside me. So I started to understand what actually was happening to me was all this worry I had about this job or this job interview or this situation was anxiety. And I just didn't know what it was called. So at this particular time, it was new to me on my journey. I was assuming I was sick, and then later on I was thinking, actually, I feel all right. What's cracking off here? So I started to understand that it was because of all the things that I was focusing on, the worry, the uncertainty, the doubt. What if this? What if that? What if it don't go well? What if I don't fit in? All of these other feelings start to creep in. So I started to understand myself a little bit more on a deeper level. Yes, I was feeling these things from spirit. Yes, I was also feeling these other things like anxiety and things like that. So I started to understand my body a lot more, what I was feeling, why I was feeling it, and also how I could start to change that. Now, if you're on this spiritual journey right now, and you probably may suffer with anxiety yourself, there's great ways that you can start to overcome this. One of the ways that I learned was to count backwards inside my head from 200. By counting backwards from 200, because you had to focus because you're going backwards rather than forwards, it wasn't as easy as going forwards, which meant that there was a distraction and my focus became on the numbers rather than how I was feeling. So this started to help me to settle down. Another way of overcoming this too was also starting to take in nice, deep breaths and just starting to slow things down in the body. Inhale and hold and exhale, and just repeat this until I start to feel much, much calmer all throughout the body. So these was a couple of the ways that I started to learn to deal with that. Now, as a psychic and as a medium, we feel so many things on a daily basis. I could be reading for someone and I could be picking up on all of the things that's going on around their life right now and seeing them too. So as I start to see them, I start to feel all this energy inside. And then I start to feel their uncertainty, their anxiety, their worry, sometimes even their traumas that I'm feeling. So I have to have an awareness of what I'm feeling, what I'm channeling, how I give that to the person. Also, as I'm reading for that person, am I also picking up on their anxiety too? So not just, again, what I'm channeling, but am I picking up on the reader's anxiety too? So also starting to understand where that energy is and where to place that energy. And to understand to not absorb. As I always say, it's not mine to own, okay? So it's not. Now, what I've noticed throughout doing this podcast in particular, there's so many people that are struggling with mental health. And I mean so many. And I've met so many that I've read for, and I've come across so many online, no matter what platform it's on. But the one thing that I'm noticing more than anything is there's people out there that are struggling that for some reason or another, they're in denial, or they're avoiding facing the situation that they're going through right now. And what I mean by that is there's people out there that are really struggling, they really want some help, but they're expecting one thing to quickly help them. And that's not the case. There is no particular medicine or one thing that can just help you just like that. It's impossible. We've got to start by putting the work in. The problem is, I see so many people that almost wait till everything collapses and then they start to put the work in. Why wait for everything to collapse around you in that tower moment, essentially? Why wait for that to happen before you start to make these changes? Are there changes within you? Are there changes around you? Is it your environment? Is it the way that you think? Is it something that you've got to heal that you keep pushing to the back of your mind? And for whatever reason, you feel you're not ready to deal with that. These are questions that I believe that you need to ask yourself. I know from my own journey, it was when I hit the very, very bottom, and I couldn't hit the bottom any harder than I did before I start making the changes myself. And this is how I know from experience. This is not being critical. This is from experience of understanding that for some reason we wait till everything around us collapses before we make those changes. But why wait for that? Why wait for all the chaos around you to happen before you make the changes? Why don't you start making the changes today? Now, for someone with a depressed mind, for example, you can start by doing things like gratitude, a gratitude journal. Ask yourself, what is it that you are focusing on right now, firstly? And that may be thoughts of negativity, negative people, negative situations, the way that you feel about yourself. So then I'd suggest starting a journal, a gratitude journal. This allows you to change your thoughts and focus on the positive people or situations in your life, the things that you're grateful for every single day. It allows you to go back and to reflect on all of those good things that are happening in your life every day. Don't forget to include the basics: food, water, a roof over your head, maybe picking your child up from school, maybe one of your children or your family ringing you that day. All the things that you might take for granted. When you've had a real think about all those things that you're grateful for just in that day, write them all down. Again, the next day, repeat the same thing. Okay, repeat the same thing. It allows you then to go back as well and to reflect on all the good things in your life, because as a depressed person, we tend to focus on all the negatives in our mind. We look for no positives at all. We only focus on negatives. So we're going to need to change that and start focusing on positive situations and positive aspects of our life. The other thing that you've got to ask yourself too is, when you're going through life, when we're going through negative situations, is there anything positive that you can take from that situation? Is there anything positive? And if you look deep enough, you'll probably find one. Whether that's the way that you changed your life, maybe it was the way that this old job falling apart led to this new job and the new job being better. Maybe you had to leave one house and you moved to another house and it was even better. Whatever that is, somewhere along there, there's going to be a positive somewhere, but you've got to look for it. You've got to find it. If you look for only negative, that's exactly what you're going to see. And this is the problem on you understanding how to reprogram and rewire your brain, because that's what it's all about, the programming your brain. It's like the old program shut down where we started to laugh and enjoy ourselves and all those other things, and all of a sudden we're in this different program now where we focus on the negative. So we need to change that and start focusing on positive people, positive situations, positive aspects, looking for a positive in a negative. Now, obviously, I've shared with you part of my journey, things that I've gone through recently and things I've gone through in the past. And one of the positives that I try and take is my own dad passed in November last year. My dad passed with cancer, which for him was obviously horrendous for him. For myself, I had to ask what positives could I take from this situation. As much as it was difficult for me, what positives can I take? The positives that I could take was that it wasn't an instant and sudden passing for him, which allowed me to still be able to talk to him, still be able to see him, and still be able to say whatever was needed for me to say to him and him to me. And this I was grateful for. And as much as it was so difficult to see him in the way that he was, I still found that positive. I still found one because I looked. And because I looked for a positive, I found one no matter what. And so I was grateful for those extra few weeks or extra few months, but I'll find that positive. For those of you that watched episode 2 of this podcast, you'll understand that was about trauma and awakening. And a lot of you will understand also what I went through when I talk about my trauma. Now, when I look back, when I reflect, I ask myself, okay, I went through a difficult time. I went through a hell of a lot of trauma as a child. What positive can I take from it? Okay, so the positive I can take from that right now is that now I use my pain to help other people. That's been my positive, is because I can understand what people have gone through. I can understand what it feels like. I can understand a lot of their pain and traumas because I've experienced it myself. And because I've experienced it, I see it very easily in a reading, and it's very easy for me to be able to help someone or give someone advice based on what I see in a reading or what I know when I'm trying to help them. Now, obviously, there's difficult situations that we all go through. And for mine was pretty awful. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was pretty awful. But I'll still look for a positive because, again, I've become this strong-minded person. Now, I wasn't always like this. What you have to remember is what you see on the screen, whether it be on any of the social platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We often look at creators and influencers and they think, oh, wow, they're so confident, they're doing so well, they're so amazing. But behind the scenes, they've also gone through a lot of troubles of their own. And just like all social media, they tend to show their best moments. This is the holiday I'm having. This is the lovely things I have in my house and in my life. These are the things that they obviously want to show. And sometimes we can get confused with this and think, I wish my life was like that. But what you have to understand is that they've probably gone through something too, but they don't always share that. For me, I wanted to be able to share with you guys to help you understand that mental health is something that I would love more people to talk about. I would love more people to be able to try and work through any mental health issues and to understand that the toolkit that they have already within them can help them overcome it. Just by starting things like the gratitude journal, by talking about positive affirmations, affirming today I feel good. Today, I feel happy. Today, I will be, I'll be feeling fantastic. But it's about you affirming that you're going to feel this way, putting these positive affirmations and saying them out loud and repeating them 3 times. It's about how you're programming your mind to look at the situation. And that is the real key to coming over your mental health, is your perception of the situation. I tell people all the time that when I see them in the mirror, in a reading, and they're looking at themselves in the mirror, that generally tells me that as a person right now, they don't look at themselves kindly, whether it's their face, whether it's their body, whether it's anything else, but they're not looking at themselves kindly. Only problem is with that, it's usually based on their emotions and not necessarily physical. It's usually based on what the mind's telling them and not what they really look like. And the mind's telling them, I don't feel good, I don't feel great, and so for this reason, this is how I feel like I look. But it's not always the case. It's the mind tricking you. And so when you are looking at the mirror at yourself, remind yourself that you're beautiful. Remind yourself that you deserve love, you deserve to be trusted, you deserve all the happiness and abundance in your life. Try not to reflect negativity in the mirror back at yourself, telling yourself that you look this way and you feel this way. Make sure it's all positive. Make sure it's positive. Because when you look in that mirror, I can guarantee you it's based on your emotions. Could have been something that somebody said today, last week, last year, or even 10 years ago, but it's based on your mind. Now, I understand that we all change physically too. Of course, I've changed a lot. So I understand that we all change physically. However, does that mean I can't be happy? No. I can be as happy as I choose to be. And that's the difference. Now, it's about how you focus your mind on the things that you want to achieve, the people that you want to be around, the things that you don't want to be around. You see, going through the mental health journey, you have to ask, is it yourself? Is it your environment? Is it something that you've gone through? Is it something that you're going through? It's going to be one of these few things. Is it going to be something health related to somebody in the family or yourself, or even financially? There's going to be one of those that play on your mind again and again and again. And this is why you've got to ask yourself, when you're focusing on all these things, the most difficult energy for me as a psychic is uncertainty. If there's an ending, at least I can deal with that ending because I know that there's an ending of some sort. If there's uncertainty, I don't know which way it's going, and it makes me feel probably worse than an ending. And so I have to understand this is the energy that I'm feeling. I need to try and find an outcome rather than an uncertain feeling because I don't like the way that this feels. So whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whatever that is, I need to understand why I'm feeling uncertain. Can I fix that uncertainty in my life? Now, what I want some of you to do is I want you to try and exercise with me right now. Those that are listening in, I want to prove to you that what you focus on is what you feel. So I want you now just to close your eyes just for a moment. And I want you to take in a nice, deep breath. And exhale. Now I want you to bring your attention towards your mind's eye. And I want you now to focus on a happy memory that comes to mind straight away. This could be a person, this could be a situation, but I want you to visualize this memory in your mind right now. Again, taking another deep breath. And exhale. As you start to focus on this memory or this person, you should start to feel a feeling in your stomach or in your chest right now. It may feel like butterflies, or there may also be like an overwhelming feeling around your chest. This could also be happiness or love that you're feeling right now. And as you start to stay in this moment, ask yourself, why do I feel so happy? And as you start to get an answer in your mind, I want you now to just start waking up and just start coming back to me on the screen. And I want you to let me know in the comments at the end of this podcast on how that felt to you when you focused on that person or memory that made you feel happy. How did it feel to you inside? Now, if the answer is it felt good, then what you need to be doing is focusing more on good people and memories in your life, because it will change the way that you feel. Because if you're focusing on good people, good memories, you're going to feel good. If you're focusing on negative people and negative memories, you're not going to feel good. When you've got time, I'm not going to do it on this podcast, but when you've got time, repeat the same process, but maybe with a negative person or situation. And then ask yourself how that feels to you. If the answer is that you start to feel anxious and uncertain, that proves my point. That as you start to focus on that person or that situation, you feel all the energy that's connected to that, because every emotion has got a memory attached to it. And every memory has got an emotion attached to it. And so if you focus on it long enough, that is what you're going to feel. So now you know that what you need to do is change the way that you think. And by changing the way that you think, it will change the way that you feel. And so it's important for you to understand that your thoughts mean everything to how you feel. And if you could reprogram yourself right now to feeling more happy, to feeling more uplifted, to feeling more positive, to feeling more abundant in your life, this is how you do it. Because it's what you focus on. And if you focus on that, that is what you're going to feel. And it's no different to another little exercise that I also want to try with you whilst we're still here on this podcast. For those of you that would like to manifest something in your life, again, a home, a car, a holiday, whatever that might be, I want you again taking a nice deep breath. And exhale. Now I want you to now start to visualize what you'd like to manifest in your life. Let's just say, for example, this is a house. I want you now to imagine that you're walking down this path, on the pathway to this house. And you can see the pathway. You can see what the front of the house looks like. You can see what the front door looks like. And as you start to approach this front door, you imagine opening this front door. And you imagine stepping into this home. And as you walk in, you can smell how it feels around you. You can feel the energy, how it feels around you. You start to get a feeling for the layout. You can see the kitchen. You can see the living room. You can see the stairway. And you can see all the other rooms. I want you now just to imagine yourself walking into the kitchen. And as you start to picture the kitchen, you can see all the light coming in through the windows. And I want you to walk over to the sink and turn on the taps and imagine feeling the water on your hands. Now I want you to also imagine yourself cooking in this space, in this kitchen. In my kitchen, I can smell bacon. I can smell cookies. I can smell cakes as I'm starting to imagine myself cooking in this kitchen. As I leave everything in the kitchen where it's all nice and safe and it's cooking, I start to then walk into the next room. And as I walk into the next room, I approach the living room. And everything is exactly how I imagine it to be. The colour, the furnishings, and the light, the way it comes into my house. I imagine myself sitting on this sofa and imagine the comfort level in there. And I also feel the heat surrounding me and the sun coming through the windows. I ask myself whilst I'm in this room, how do I feel? And I feel brilliant as I imagine myself in this room and imagine myself in this space. As I stand up from the living room, I know that it's time to come out of the living room and I want to now look in to the back garden. And so I imagine the door opening and going into the garden and have this vision of what the garden looks like to me. For some of you it will be large, for some of you it will be small. And you imagine yourself walking into this garden and how this garden feels to you, how the energy of this garden feels to you, how you feel surrounded by all the things and people in your life that you would like to be surrounded by within this particular space. As you start to invite people into your home, into your garden, and you feel surrounded by those people, their love and their energy. And then again, as you start to feel this energy, ask yourself what this feels like to you. How good does this feel as you start to visualize all of these things and people and situations in your life? Now I want you to imagine just walking back out of the garden, walking back through the door and back through the living room and back into the kitchen and turning the cooker off, making sure it's safe. And again, just walking back towards the front door and back out onto the front and open your eyes and back into your seat in your home. Now the purpose of this was to teach you also how you can focus on manifestation and how to start to focus on manifesting people, situations in your life, but also understanding it's not a matter of just saying that I want it. You've got to feel it. You've got to feel what that new home, what that new car, what that new partner feels like, whatever that might be for you. You've got to feel it. It's no good just saying it. You've got to truly manifest it. And it starts here. It starts with the energy that you form from your thoughts as you put the consciousness out there, and that starts to form out there in the universe. And this all starts to bring together. And you can go back to this vision and focus on manifesting that as many times as you like. If you want to do it daily or weekly, you can do the same. The point from the exercise was to show you again, when you focus on manifestations, positive outcomes, positive people, positive places, everything inside starts to feel good. Because you put your thoughts, your focus, and your energy into this place that feels good for you. And this is why it's important to understand that you have the tools right now. As you sit there in your home watching this podcast, you have all the tools within you to start to change your life. The gratitude diary, the manifestation, what you're focusing on, how it feels to you. If it doesn't feel good, then I have an awareness. Have an awareness that this doesn't feel good, what I'm thinking about. I need to have that awareness. I need to place that over there because I don't want to feel like that. And then I need to focus on something or somebody that makes me feel good and happy. And take yourself back to that happy place for you. This will help you to understand that all of these things that you can do can start to help you to reprogram your mind, start to help you to understand that little changes make big differences. Looking for positives rather than negatives. And these are the tools that Spirit have given me on my journey, coming through this journey myself. So they would say to me, Carl, you're focusing on negative again. You need to have an awareness. And then I'd be absolutely engulfed, for example, in negativity and anxiety. And I used to sit there and think, what is wrong with me? And Spirit would tell me, sit, Carl, sit. Sit and feel what it is that you need to feel. I'd sit in this chair, and sometimes it'd take 2 or 3 days to go, I know why I've been feeling like that now. Because I've been focused on this, or because I've been focused on that, or because of this. So I have to go through the process and understand what I'm thinking about and why I'm feeling that way and why I'm feeling that way about it as well. And so that I can box it. Now, the other thing that you can do too is that you might have people around you, so family around you. So is the people around you that also suffer with anxiety and depression? If the answer is yes to that question, and sometimes that may affect you, ask yourself that, are you picking up on their anxiety and depression or even uncertainty? Because as you worry about them or focus on them, whichever way you want to say it, as you worry about them, then you start to step into their energy, which is very, very easily to do. Even if you don't realise you're a psychic, you probably are. And as you start to focus, let's just say, for instance, it's your child, okay? So as you start to focus on, you visualise them in your head, and all of a sudden, boom, you're in their energy. You're in their energy field. You're starting to feel all the feelings that they're feeling: worry, anxiety, uncertainty, unhappiness, depression, confusion. And you start to feel all of these feelings, all of these energies, because they're all energies, of course, and energies are emotions, and you feel these emotions. Because you know this person so well as well, you can feel their pain. So you must have heard many people before where they'd say, I've got sympathy pains. And, your partner or your mum or your dad or somebody around you may have leg ache, backache, hip ache, neck ache. But you go, oh, I've got a bit of a neck ache. I think I'm having sympathy pains for you. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Would be with your son, your daughter. It could be anybody around you. As you start to focus on them, you start to pick up and start to feel things on a psychic level and not even realise that you're picking up on a psychic level. You see, some of us know that we're psychic and some of us don't. And I was one of the ones that didn't until I did. And so there's probably many of you out there that are very, very tuned in, probably more than the average person, but don't realise why it's affecting your mental health so much. There's people out there which, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, so bear this in mind. In my opinion, from all the people that's been on my courses, people that may be ADHD, there may be autism, there could be anywhere on the spectrum, but they're very tuned in. Just like me, just like my children, very, very tuned in. As they always say, we're wired differently, completely different now. We hear energy, that sound in your ear, that high-pitched sound that you hear, that humming or frequency sound. Yes, you're hearing energy. That is what you're hearing. And if it's not tinnitus, of course, or high cortisol, of course, then it's most definitely energy that you're hearing in your ear. Sensitive to light. And again, as you start to become sensitive to light, again, people on the spectrum are very sensitive, whether it's ADHD, autism, very, very sensitive to light. Just like myself, I cannot stand bright lights. This is the only time when I'm doing this podcast that I put on that light. The rest of the time, I wouldn't do it because I don't like it. I find them quite offensive. And so we're very sensitive, not just to light, not just to sound, but also crowds, energies around us. We could go out, go up into quite a built-up place, McDonald's or a Primark or anything similar to that wherever you live, because obviously it depends where you are in the world listening to this. And you could go into any of those places that are built up and just feel poof, like it's just hit you. You feel the energy just hit you. And again, what you've got to ask yourself, is it yours? Is it a stranger's energy that you're feeling around you too? Or are you feeling a spirit's energy that's connected to that person too? You may get on a bus, you may get on a taxi, you may get on a train and sit in a seat where several other people have sat, and all of a sudden feel a bit off, feel a bit sick, feel a bit anxious, feel a bit all over the place, a bit unsettled. Is that your energy? Or is it somebody else's residual energy that they've left behind? Because if they've touched it or sat in it, they've left energy behind. And are you picking up on their energy because you're so sensitive? So, as I'm trying to say to you guys about your mental health, you have to have an awareness. Is it yours? And if it's not, place it over here. Box it. That's not mine. I don't need to feel this anxiety. That's not mine. If it is yours, is it because you're focusing on something? Worried about something? Worried about someone? And if you're not thinking about anything, your mind is clear. Is there a spirit around you? Is there a spirit around you that you may be feeling? Remember, not all of us see. Some of us hear, some of us see, some of us feel. Some of us also got claircognizance. So again, we know. So we know that we've got this person around us. So that's what you've got to ask yourself. What is this energy? What am I feeling, and why am I feeling this way? And place it, box it, place it, box it. That's not mine, that's mine. If it's yours, you know what to do next. Go back to that positive person, positive memory. If it's not yours, it's not yours to own. Get it, shelf it, it's not yours. Ways of also coming through this too is to go through things like grounding meditations, healing meditations, things like that that will raise your vibration. You could go through a chakra meditation as well, so to clear any chakras, clear any blockages, things like that. But any form of meditation will be good for you, for your mind, your body, and your soul. It will be good for you in so many ways. Being out in nature will be good for you too. And something that I've said to somebody recently, when they feel this anger, rage, they don't know why they feel this way, but they've just got this energy that's stuck. How do you respond to that? Well, the best way that you respond to that is to channel that energy in a positive way. Go for a walk around your local park. If you can, of course. Obviously, if you've not got the ability to do that, then I understand that. But it's about channeling that energy in a positive way. For some of us, we might go to the gym. We might go on the treadmill. We might pick up weights. We might punch a punch bag. For others, it may be more gentle of just going for a walk or just being around water and trees and things like that. But it's about you understanding how to channel this built up energy in a positive way, rather than it eating away and coming out with a blah, 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 and it comes out in anger and rage and either upsets yourself or upsets somebody around you. So you've got to understand that it's about the way that you use that energy and the way that you channel that energy, and it's the way that you reset yourself by walking and channeling that energy in a different way, so kind of walking it off. And you might feel like you're pacing around the park and going really fast, but it's doing something in a positive way rather than reacting negatively. Because I know what that's like. I know what that's like to feel the energy build inside you and that rage that you feel inside you, and how inside we don't understand this agitation, this anger, this frustration. We just know that we feel it. We just know that we're going to explode, but we don't know why. We just know that it's there. And so it's so important to use that energy and channel that energy wisely. Something that's positive for you and positive for the people around you too. Because what you have to remember is everything has a domino effect. When it affects you, it affects those people around you. And when it affects the people around you, it also affects you too. So you've got to understand there's a domino effect with everything. Whether it's your children suffering, whether it's your partner suffering, whether it's your family member suffering, there's always a domino effect. And you've got to ask yourself, is there any way that I can stop this domino effect myself? And so that starts with yourself by making the important changes with yourself, looking at ways to do positive things. Another thing that's really good for mental health is those you get like now some like kind of colouring books. You can get some very good spiritual colouring books that again gives you a form of focusing on the book in front of you rather than all your worries. So you become kind of creative and artistic, and you channel the energy in a positive way. So whether it's angels or fairies or patterns and things like that, again, it's another good way of working through your anxieties and the way that you focus, because you've got to focus over your colouring. You've got to focus, so it helps you to distract your mind. And so what you have to understand is there's more than one way that you can start to improve your mental health. But affirmations, we mentioned focusing on positivity. We mentioned a gratitude journal. We also mentioned, again, channeling the energy in a positive way. We also talked about understanding the energies and having an awareness of the energy and boxing it. So there's so many different things that you can take from today and start to change in your own life, because when you focus on something long enough, you're going to feel it. And if you want to go back to that house, by the way, when we was doing that little meditation there, that little visualization, again, it will help you to understand if you focus on something long enough, that is what you will feel. And if you want to feel that hope, that's important too. And so you start kind of putting that energy out to the universe. It's really important that on this mental health journey, that you always have hope, and you always have some sort of faith that you're going to come through this. Now, faith comes in many ways, whether it be religion faith, or faith in your spirituality, or faith in yourself. It's so important that you have some sort of hope and faith that you will overcome things. But as I always say, it's not always winter, it's not always summer, it's not always light, and it's not always dark. The seasons change, and so do the things around us. Our challenges change. Some of them get harder, and some of them get easier, but none of them last forever, most importantly. And that's something that you need to remember too, is that your challenges don't last forever. If you can start to change your perception of a situation, the way that you look at a situation, and the way that you start to look for positives in that situation, you'll start to change this so quickly. Your life will go from maybe in the struggling mode to a mode where everything around you starts to change. You'll look back in 4 weeks and 6 weeks and 8 weeks, and you may even come back to this podcast and say, you know what, Carl, I tried some of the things that you've said, and actually I've started to make some positive changes in my life, and things are really starting to change. So if you are watching this podcast, please feel free to come back to this podcast in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a little bit in time, where you've had a chance to do these things every day, to put these little changes in your life and to do them every single day. And if you do them every day, I want you then to come back onto the comment section, whether you're watching it on Spotify or YouTube or any other platform. And I want you to come back on here and I want you to let me know how it's changed for you. Now, I can guarantee that it will only be positive if you're using these things in your life. Now, I always talk about things like about the creator. So I talk about the creator, but I talk about the creator is within you. Okay, you are the creator. You create things. Now, I know that sometimes there's people around us that create challenges for us. So they're creators and you're a creator. Okay, so we all talk about the great creator up there, but this is you. You're the creator. You're creating all these things around you right now. Your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions, the way you go to work, the way you come home, what you eat for dinner, how you decorate your house, everything. You've created all of those things in your life, okay? Now, there's other creators at work too. So they're creating their way home, you're creating your way home. You might pass each other and wave on the way home. But you're all creators. Now, obviously what I'm trying to point out to you here is that you can focus on what you can create in your life. And there will be some times that you might take a little detour based on other creators and their challenges, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whatever it might be. But what you've got to go back to is focusing on what you can create in your life, what you can change, what you can create, and how you can create that. I often like to think of it as a book. For example, I'm nearly 48. It's my birthday on Saturday. So I'm nearly 48. So I like to think of it like this. So I've done 47 chapters and the 48th chapter is coming. And a lot of the chapters before, I didn't realise that I was the author. I was the creator. I didn't realise back then. But I am aware now that I am the author. I am the creator. And that chapter that comes next, chapter number 48, I'm in complete charge of that. I will write in there what I know that I would like to create in my life for the next year. And again, like I say, there will be other creators at work and sometimes there's going to be diversions, but I can still get back on course. They're just mini diversions and I'll make sure I stay on my course. You are the author, you are the creator, you create what you want. And that is what you've got to focus on. And yes, there's going to be challenges. There's always going to be challenges. But if you allow your challenges to become bigger, by sometimes the snowball starting like this, but the snowball becoming this big because you've not dealt with the challenge, that's something that you also need to look at too. That's something that you have to ask yourself, well, why have we allowed the snowball to become bigger and bigger and bigger when I should have dealt with it when it was this big here? So that's something that you need to come back to and ask yourself, what is it you're avoiding? What is it you're avoiding? I often say that it's not often the challenge that's the problem, but it's the way that we deal with the challenge that's the problem, the way that react or didn't react, as the case may be. We could have shouted or screamed or had a meltdown, or we could have just pushed it to the side. I'm not dealing with that. That's often the problem, is the fact that we're not dealing with the problem. And that's something that you have to come back to and ask yourself, if you deal with the problem the same every single time, you're probably likely to have the same outcome every single time. But if you deal with the problem or challenge differently, even just a tweak, there's a good chance that there's going to be a slightly different outcome. So ask yourself, how am I going to face this challenge? Is there another way to face this challenge that would be better for me? Without me worrying about it, without it becoming this big snowball, is there a way for me to face this challenge without it becoming the bigger problem? What is it that I need to do? Ask yourself this question. I understand that families can be very difficult. And I understand that sometimes people in the family, there can be challenges that are unseen for other people. And sometimes we don't know how to deal with those because sometimes it's because they're our family. But sometimes too, it's family that can sometimes take more advantage of us than other people. And then we also have to ask ourselves, is there some boundaries that I need to set for myself here? Do I need to know my self-worth? Do I need to look at this relationship in some way? Because not all relationships are always good for us. Some relationships are not good for us. Some relationships can be difficult for us. It could be us, it could be them. It could just be the clash of you both. It could be the way that they look at something, or even the way that you look at something. But what I've learned from my own experiences is that sometimes some relationships, sometimes they need a break, they need a pause for whatever reason. Maybe it's the way that they see a situation or perceive a situation to be. Or maybe it's you. But that's only something that you know the answer to within yourself. You see, mental health comes in so many waves. Is it something from today? Is it something from the past? Is it something that's around you right now that's not yours? That may be connected to somebody around you that you're feeling? Is it a spirit that wants to come through to let you know that they're coming through? But because you're not clairaudient, you're not able to hear, so they just send you another sign to let you know they're around. Signs come in so many ways, and then we just discussed that on episode 1. Signs come in so many ways through spirit communication. So there's so many levels of mental health. But it's about your awareness. It's about your awareness of what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and what you're going to do next with that. And that is where the growth really is at. When you understand what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, that's when it will all change from there. But you need the awareness. For those of you that would like some meditations from myself, I am looking to upload some onto YouTube. It might work on Spotify too. Those that are listening on Spotify, feel free to comment and let me know in the comments. But I am keen to try and get some on there because I'm fully aware that with these guided meditations, it's something that really could help you. And you might go to it once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week by resetting the mind and reprogramming the mind to think positive and to think of a different version of the way that we think of things. Because I remember being in those dark places. I remember being depressed and struggling with mental health and isolating myself, not being around many people. I remember the way that my mind constantly thought and overthought, and even overthought even more. And then I just didn't know what to do with those thoughts, and then just spun round and round and round. Another good exercise as well is just to get these thoughts out of your head, get them onto paper. Don't let them take over you. Get them out onto paper, because if you don't get them out your head, they'll just keep spinning around. So again, write them down. Whether it's a daily diary, journal, just write them down. Get them out of your head. But remember, always look for the positive. And always remember your gratitude, what you're grateful for. Whether it's right now, the dinner you've had this evening, the roof over your head that's kept the rain off you. If you're in the UK, it's rained every day. For me, it's the simple little things like waiting for my little boy to come out of school, and he runs up to me and gives me a cuddle. And that's one of the things I look forward to more than anything. And they're the things that we probably take for granted. So ask yourself, are you taking things for granted too? And whether it be those simple things in life, the food, the water, the family, the cuddles, are you taking them for granted? And this is where you need to put your focus and ask yourself, what do I need to be grateful for in my life right now? And focus on all of those things every day. And then at the end, remember to thank the universe for all those things and ask for it to come back again tenfold. You know, all those things that you wish for in your life or hope for in your life, those things. And sometimes it can also be a stranger. You know, I used to do a window cleaning round years and years ago. And I used to meet so many elderly people where they used to tell me that they hadn't spoke to a single soul for a week. So I used to stand and talk to them for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They'd not spoken to a single soul for a whole week. So maybe I was that person that maybe changed their day that day because somebody took the time to listen to them and talk to them. And is that person you? Is that you talking to someone today or somebody talking to you? And they are also the things as well to be grateful for. The things that, again, we just take for granted. But sometimes we shouldn't. Sometimes we need to stop and we just need to appreciate them. Learn to focus on all the things that make you feel good. So guys, we all come into the end now. So I hope that all of you took something from today's podcast. I hope that you will come back onto the comment section in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or even longer, and let me know how you've got on over that time implementing these things into your life. And let me know as well in the comments, when we focus on something good, how did that make you feel? And don't forget to mention, did you enjoy the manifestation as well? When we walked through the house or whatever it was that you started to manifest. So I would love to hear your feedback. So flood the comment section, no matter what platform you're listening on. I would love to hear from you guys. I'm Grey Wolf Psychic Medium. This is the Spiritual Hour, and I'll see you all again next week. Until then, take care, guys.